So do you know if we're live?
I believe we are.
All right. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or good evening if you're in Central Asia. Welcome to the first session of our virtual conference that's opened up this weekend. I'm Mary Holmick, Vice President of Youth Initiatives at Legacy International. And we're really pleased to have partnered with the Center for the Enhancement of Engineering Diversity, also known as SEED, at Virginia Tech for the Tech Girls program since 2015. This year we're celebrating 10 years of Tech Girls, and we've really enjoyed this partnership for the past 7 years with Virginia Tech. The Center for the Enhancement of Engineering Diversity accesses a wide variety of resources from across the entire Virginia Tech community to provide a customized tech camp and college and career readiness program for us and Tech Girls. They are a tremendous asset to the program. SEED supports women and other students from underrepresented populations to excel in STEM at Virginia Tech and become leaders in a variety of fields. Virginia Tech itself is ranked 25th among public institutions, 69th for universities nationwide, and is one of the world's best in 21 STEM subjects. That's according to U.S. News and World Report. In this morning's session, you will hear from 5 women pursuing higher education in STEM. We hope through their personal storytelling, you may gain inspiration to set your own higher education goals. They represent the fields of environmental and water resource engineering, biomedical engineering, industrial and systems engineering, computer engineering, and aerospace engineering. So we want to thank you, all of you who are taking time out of your busy university schedules to join us today. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Becky, to get us started.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining our session. I'm happy to introduce our session. It's called From the Field, Women Studying Engineering. So today you'll hear from 4 amazing and accomplished women in STEM, specifically studying engineering at Virginia Tech. So we're so excited to be here today and share, experiences, challenges, lessons learned, and tips for pursuing a degree in STEM. So my name is Becky. I'll be your facilitator. We'll take about 20 minutes and you'll hear from each of the panelists about their research, how they got funding, and their interests outside of school. And then around 9 o'clock, we'll start a Q&A. So, don't be shy. Don't be afraid to ask any questions you might have. I see there's a Q&A feature that you all should feel free to use. And I ask about school, life outside school, graduate experience, overcoming adversity, anything. So I'll start by telling you a little bit about myself. There we go. So I'm a first-year master's student studying environmental and water resources engineering, and I'm also a graduate assistant for the Center for the Enhancement of Engineering Diversity, SEED for short, at Virginia Tech. I'm from Arlington. I graduated with a degree in environmental science from the University of Virginia in 2018. And then I spent a couple years working at a data science company before I decided to come back to graduate school and switch careers into engineering. So outside of education, I love to read fantasy novels. I like to knit. I like to get outside and hike. It's really beautiful here in Blacksburg, Virginia, where Virginia Tech is. So now we'll go around and hear from each of our panelists. We'll start with Katrina.
All right, thank you very much for having me. So my name is Katrina Chang, or Katrina. I use she, her, hers pronouns. As you can tell from my name, I am not your typical Puerto Rican, as it's saying here, because I am from Mayagüez, Puerto Rico, but I also consider McLean, Virginia, my home for the past 10 years. I am a 5th-year PhD student, or a PhD candidate, as also called in the academia graduate world. I'm in biomedical engineering, so that means that hopefully I'll be graduating soon, and it seems that's going to be the plan so far, so fingers crossed. Um, I got my bachelor's in bioengineering with a concentration of signals and systems. And if engineering wasn't hard enough, I also added a minor to it, a minor in dance. I love dance. That's kind of been my thing for ever since I was born. So it's like second nature. And I did all that at George Mason University. So up here in Fairfax, Virginia, close to home. Some of the fellowships that I have gotten are listed there. The GEM Associate Fellowship, which I'm pretty sure we'll be talking about if you have any questions about how to get funding for graduate school. The SMART Fellowship, which myself and Laverne, who's another panelist there, we both have it. So it's a great fellowship that pays for all your school, both graduate and undergraduate, depending on when you apply. And the nice thing about it is you get a guaranteed job. So you don't have to worry about that. And VT-IMSD, which is another minority initiative within Virginia Tech. In terms of what I do in my graduate career, I study how the heart performs. So you can imagine when the heart is pumping, it needs a message for that pumping to occur. And so I study how to start that message and how that message travels. And based on that, I can tell if a heart is going to have a heart attack or not. And I can measure that by changing basically the food that we consume and the space between the cells. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I've been doing for the past 5 years. It's been great. It's been, there's been ups and downs. I have a lot of gray hairs, which thankfully Zoom is covering with its nice filter. So I thank Zoom for that. Outside of my research, I like to do a lot of things. Dancing has always been one of the biggest things that I have done throughout my life, which I continue to do. Like I've performed for Virginia Tech in their Salsa Tech group, a team that performs salsa, bachata, merengue, so Latinx or Latino dances. And besides that, I have got back to reading. So I'm currently reading a lot of books, wide range of books. I just kind of go with the flow. And then I love traveling. So I do, my family and I, we like to do some spontaneous adventures over the weekends and during like spring break or the holidays. And so we try to find something new. So yeah, I just want to end up saying thank you again for having me, and I look forward to your questions and a great discussion.
Thanks, Katrina. All right, next we have Laverne.
Great. Hello, everybody. My name is Laverne Curry. I'm from Woodbridge, Virginia. I'm a second-year PhD student in Industrial and Systems Engineering at Virginia Tech. I got my Master's of Engineering in Industrial and Systems Engineering last semester along the way because I was a direct PhD student. And I did my Bachelor of Science in Human Factors Psychology and a minor in Neuroscience at George Mason University. So by fellowship support, I have the DoD SMART. I have as much funding as I need to like finish my doctorate, and it guarantees me a job afterwards. So my research topics are applied histotripsy for brain cancer treatment, portable device development, and human factors in healthcare. And then in my free time, I like to do a bunch of different things. I like to paint, like make music. I go to an MMA gym, so I like do some of the fighting and stuff there, some competitions. I like to build and tinker, like, computers, robots, things like that. I collect a lot of art, and right now I'm working on a little startup.
That's awesome, Laverne. I didn't know you were doing a startup. All right, next we have Rita.
Hello, everyone. My name is Harita, and I'm a first-year graduate student in the computer engineering program over here at Virginia Tech. So I have hopped around a little bit. So I was born in India in a place called Pondicherry, and then I stayed there for 4 years. When I was 4, my family moved to the Middle East because my dad got a job there. So I lived in Salmiya in Kuwait, like pretty much all my life up until I was 18. And then ever since 2017, for the past 5 years, I've been calling Blacksburg, Virginia, my home. That's where Virginia Tech is. I've been living here. So it's a really hard question for me to ask what my hometown is because I genuinely do not know how to answer that. So as I said, I'm a first-year graduate student in computer engineering. I did my bachelor's also at Virginia Tech in computer engineering with a focus in controls, robotics, and autonomy. So what I do for my research right now is like constrained path planning for robots. So we know that robots have this endless amount of computation that they can do to get from place to place. However, if you constrained one aspect of their path planning, basically, if you constrained like the amount of memory they could use, or if we constrained like their vision, how would they still be efficiently able to path plan and get from place A to place B? That's pretty much my research. And I do them on like land robots, so nothing aerial, nothing water. For my basically funding for graduate school, I'm completely funded through the Center for the Enhancement of Engineering Diversity. So I'm an instructor for their freshman experience course. So I teach a course in the fall as well as in the spring. And then I have been part of SEED ever since my freshman year. So started off in their women in engineering community, and then basically became a mentor and then rose up the ranks. And I just enjoyed having the supportive like nature around me, and also having like being surrounded by women always, because my major is has one of the lowest like male to female ratios. So it kind of helped me a lot, like finding a community where like people look like me. So things I do outside of Virginia Tech or like outside school, I'm definitely a board game fanatic. Like I love playing board games, strategy board games, things that last like 4 hours to play. Sign me up for it. I love anything like tech and travel related. That is pretty much all what I watch on YouTube. Anything new tech that comes in, I love to watch about them. And then I love to travel spring break, summer, even the weekends. And for how small Blacksburg is, I love it way too much. I can be out of Blacksburg for maximum like 2-3 weeks, and then I start missing it, and then I want to come back. So I do not know why I'm like this. I've been here long enough, I think, but I like it way too much than other people. So I'm looking forward to your questions in the chat.
Thanks, Harita. All right, next we have Margie.
Hello everyone, I'm Margie Papalya and I'm an international student from Gujarat, India. I am an undergrad junior majoring in aerospace engineering at VT, and I had diploma in yoga from India. And I am a vice president of international student support team with SEED. And for other extracurricular activities, I'm a treasurer of a Council of International Students student organization. And in my free time, I just love working with international orgs at VT. I love painting, yoga, and yeah, I guess you can ask me like, what are some places you can be around in Blacksburg and some on-campus jobs, and I don't know. Yeah, looking forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Margie. All right, so I don't see any questions yet, but I can start out, and we'll just start out very simple. I'm wondering if the panelists can tell me what led you to choosing a degree in STEM. Like way back, did it start when you were in high school? Did it start when you were 5 years old? Like, how did you know that you wanted to pursue a degree in STEM?
I think for me, like I've always been interested in like research and science, like even from a young age, I was always like taking things apart or like trying to figure out how to do something. So that curiosity kind of stayed with me into undergrad, and it kind of like got me into like, okay, well, maybe I start doing research, or like what sort of like things can I do, and like allowed me to explore more. Like because universities have money and like resources for students to look into these sorts of things.
I think for me, it was like starting a young age. First thing, like my dad was a civil engineer, so I kind of did like have that ability to like see what an engineer does in an everyday setting. However, for me, like I enjoyed, we had a computer when I was in like grade 1. I enjoyed taking that apart and putting it together. And it used to happen with bikes also. So I don't know what kind of field I wanted to go into, but I like to tinker with things, and that is where it started. Or like that was like my first steps into like probably this is a major I want to look into.
I think for me, it was like most of my cousins are engineers, and I was like, I want to be an engineer, but like which one was something like, but then I wanted like a lot, I love math. So engineering with a lot of math and physics was like aerospace engineering. So that's how I like, yeah.
Yeah, similar to Haritha, my father and my uncle are engineers, but my father, and my mother is a nursing student, a nurse, and so that kind of why I got into biomedical engineering. But my parents were very clear that engineering or science was not what I really needed to do. But what really I think sealed the deal for me was dancing, ironically, like just being a dancer and just seeing how my body and other dancers, like their body just deteriorated after wear and tear for performances and practices for so long. And I felt just that need to help them. And so engineering seemed to be the way that I felt like I can help my fellow dancers. And well, so not I did not end up helping dancers, but help people with heart attacks. So kind of a 360, but kind of that concept of helping people seemed to be where engineering really fit well.
That's awesome. Yeah, for me, I never knew I wanted to be an engineer until like maybe 2 years ago. But I did know that when I was younger, I loved being outside. I loved being in nature. I was always curious about plants. And so that's what sort of drew me to environmental science to begin with. And then I realized that I wasn't really qualified for all the cool jobs that I was seeing out there. I had to be an engineer to get those jobs. So that's why I came back to school. So this kind of leads me into my next question for you all. What advice do you have for those who want to pursue a degree in STEM, but they don't know what their career will be? Like they're unsure of their exact career path.
I personally would say not to really focus on a career path or a specific outcome. Just kind of pursue what you're passionate about, and that thing will come later. Like when I started my PhD, I didn't know anything about like the DoD Smart, for instance. Then I got more information, and now I have a job. And that may not even be like what I want to do career wise. Like maybe once I'm like done with the smart like commitment, then I'll do something else. So it's just a matter of like being open to opportunities, so that you don't limit yourself, and it might benefit you in the long run.
I agree with Laverne on that because when I came into college, the only thing I knew was I want to do something related to computers. I did not care. Like I was like any job, anything that has to do with my degree, I was ready to do because I did not even know what the different fields were. And I think that is what is nice about like at least engineering and undergrad over here because it is so broad and you have the ability to take a variety of classes and your classes enable you to figure out the things you like and things you do not because there are aspects in computer engineering that I absolutely detest, like I could never go back to it again, that kind. And then those are the kind of jobs I'm like I would not want to do. And then the classes I enjoy taking, those are the kind, then I like talk to professors or like look into like what are the folks like if I took these certain classes, what are the kind of jobs I could take. So that is something that comes into your degree, not like at the beginning of your degree. I do not think you should walk into, say, for example, biomed telling that I want to be a prosthetics engineer. Like, I do not think that is how it works. You walk into the degree because you enjoy doing what you want to do in that degree.
Yeah,
Okay.
oh,
So
yeah, I was gonna say I totally agree with whatever the panelists all said. Like, I know for me, like I took like when I entered undergrad, I had like a first year engineering course that was you went because when you enter undergrad, at least for me and from what I've heard from my other colleagues in other universities, you don't enter specifically to an engineering department. You enter into like the College of Engineering, and then is when you choose the different engineering degrees. So definitely take advantage of that first year course that you take of like learning about the different engineering degrees. And also, I know it's hard to say, but really kind of don't worry about it because your field or your job is going to find you somehow. Like I know for me, like I know when I was starting my undergrad, I had a lot of my friends back then that they had already internships with Procter and Gamble and with IBM. And so I felt that pressure that I needed to go there. But the match wasn't there between what the companies believed and what I believed. And it just so happened that then the federal government was just a better match for me in terms of like personality, how I wanted to live my lifestyle. And so it just found me. So I know it's hard to say, but kind of don't worry about it. Focus on your classes, just figure yourself out first, because then the job will and what you want to do will come later, will eventually come.
I think that's awesome advice. I see a question in the chat from Teresa. She wants to know, you have a mentor? And if yes, how are you connected and what kind of support do they provide?
So I can go for this. So yes, I do have a mentor. I always say I have a support system, not just a singular person to go to with everything I have. So freshman year, I was a part of this program in Seed where we were all assigned a mentor. So I didn't have a choice in that per se. Like I signed up for the program and then I got assigned a mentor. And that is where it started. That's when I got introduced to the concept of like having an upperclassman or like having someone older to you, like guide you through your college degree. And then I quickly realized the folks I started interacting with, they were giving me advice and guiding me in certain things. And that is where like my support system started forming. I still find new people to support me because folks I met in undergrad are no longer here or they have graduated and things like that. However, I would say like I have like two different kinds of mentorship. One is personal, somewhere like my mentor from my freshman year, it's been 5 years, she has graduated, lives in a different city, she lives 5 hours away from me. However, I still connect with her when I'm going through something personally. She's the person I like open up about my mental health, things like that. And there are a couple of folks like that who have stayed here with me long term. However, I do find like professional mentors also, like my advisor in grad school, my boss at work, and a couple of my friends. So I would say it's more or less like a support system I went about. And it is more on like how you interact with folks when you meet them. You see if they're able to support you in some way, and if you're able to support them. It's a two-way streak. I'm there for my mentor a lot of times as much as she's there for me too. So it can be professional also. Like my mentor sometimes like comes to my classes to give as like guest speakers if she's hiring in our company, things like that. So that's how I went about finding mentors. It was more or less like connecting with folks with like the various part-time jobs I did, and then seeing like where they were able to support me and how they were supporting me.
I kind of agree with the whole support system. Like Katrina is technically my mentor, but she's more of a friend. Like I've known her for a long time. So I would consider her part of my support system instead of like somebody I go to for like specific problems or things like that all the time, if that makes sense. Also, there are people that you may not consider your mentor, kind of like your graduate program people. Like I know that I've had some issues kind of flare up. And so like the professionals in my like community that I may need help with or advice from, like they're also kind of like mentors or people of support that, you know, you should be able to talk to, and they should be able to help you if they're, you know, doing what they should be doing.
Sorry, I was struggling to unmute. We have another question in the chat. It's a little bit long, but I'll read the whole thing. Your university seems to really support women to get through the challenges of studying engineering. If tech girls were starting something at their school to support girls, what do you suggest they do? Or what has been the most helpful aspect of Seed structure?
I'll take a stab at that one. Maybe I'm understanding the question wrong, but I think if you ever have like any idea or like just something that you want to do, I think the best thing to do first is go ask a professor. Like go and email the professors and just express see what professor maybe fits your style or your idea. That way that professor, she or they can be that connection between the university and yourself. Another option that you can do is, I'm a big advocate of just contacting, if you're in like a group, in like an organization such as Seed, or just contact them, because they're also a great support group or a great organization that can help you connect again with other professors or other mentors. So I think if you are in this type of, if again, if I'm understanding the question correctly, I think just the best way to like get your ideas started is to go through some of these organizations that do promote women in science, or go to someone who you think, or go to someone who has this, who you think has that same idea or works in that same field as you, to get your idea up and running.
I think the question, I kind of interpreted it a different way. I think they might be asking, what have you found that Virginia Tech or Seed does that's most supportive as a woman engineer?
I could try to answer that. So one of the things that I have found that they make a deliberate effort for women retention in STEM, as well as like fostering an environment for women, is that they make a deliberate effort to like connect women in STEM with other women in STEM, like the class I teach. So when you come into the SEED program as an undergrad, as basically a freshman, you have to take a freshman experience course, and in that course you see only women. Like regardless of how skewed the numbers are, there is no budging on the fact that the class with women is only with women. There is never a mixture, and the person teaching the class is also women of STEM. So like when I was hired as a graduate student, I knew I'll be teaching a class with like only 30 other women, and I teach 3 other classes. So when I was taking that class as a freshman, I did not know women were a minority in engineering, because all the women I saw around me were women in engineering. I was like, what are these people talking about? So it took me like a whole year and a half to even realize that I was a minority because of my major. However, the connections I formed in my freshman year, because I saw only women, other folks I ended up being with even until now. So that is one thing I do see, that Seed making a deliberate effort. Like they try to connect, like my support system primarily consists of women of color specifically, or women in minority, because there are far more challenges that we go through, and it's like more or less on like whether I'm be like whether the person I'm connecting with is relating to me or not, like if they can understand what I'm going through, and if I can understand what they're going through, so we can draw from each other's experience. So that is, I think, one of the biggest things I've observed in the past 5 years being with Seed, and also being on the other side of the management right now, like coordinating things, how effective that form is, just because it is really powerful to see women who look like you, speak like you on the other side of the table.
Yeah. On that, I would also say that like in my freshman year, I was part of a peer mentoring program, and it was specifically like, it had 4 different parts, and they also have like a women in engineering program. And so when I came here, I had like a huge group of, women in engineering. And yeah, as Harita said, it took me a lot of time to realize that I was a minority.
I think that another thing is that maybe not just Seed specifically, but Virginia Tech, you're able to make your own sort of community and organization. Like I have a colleague who wanted to start a woman in ISC, like sort of like group or community, and she was able to do that with like full support of our department. And so they have meetings and stuff like that. So it's like, if you feel like there's a gap or a need that's not being met by Seed or somebody else, you can do that, and it's encouraged.
So some of the things you all have just said sort of lead me to a question for you. And that is, have you faced any cultural barriers to pursuing a degree in STEM, and how did you overcome those barriers?
I can kind of speak for myself. Like Virginia Tech is a predominantly white institution. And so coming in as a Black female direct PhD student, I was like the only one in my cohort. So it's kind of like, there's definitely some things that could be done or maybe like encouraged for like younger women that are either in their undergrad or even high school, women of color to get into STEM and kind of continue and stick it out into like a PhD or something else so that there are more faces. There's more that, the department can do, but it's also like, what can I do? What can like my colleagues do so that we're facilitating and fostering this sort of like dialogues and interactions. Because a lot of it is just like, the university can only do so much. It's up to like students and like faculty basically to kind of make sure that the rest of it is being taken care of.
Yeah, I think for me, again, speaking for myself, one of the being a Hispanic female or identifying myself more as a Hispanic female, one of the things that I was accustomed to was looking nicely, especially for classes. So when I would go to classes, especially, I would make an effort to wear jeans and a shirt and maybe put some makeup on. And to be honest, I don't think the intent was to ridicule me, but I was singled out a lot by my coincidentally by other female colleagues in my class saying, "Oh, Katrina, you look always so nice today, making me look like a slum." And they would say it in a tone that was very in a tone that I did not appreciate. And so I think going back to what Laverne saying, I completely agree. Like, I think the university has these workshops that can help to educate people, but it's up to the individual. And so I think just by just keeping these workshops open, just keep pushing or the effort to have the departments and these different programs to have these workshops and having people like us to speak out and just saying, hey, this hurt me, or hey, this is not something that I feel comfortable with, is something that can really help especially to bring more women and minority into engineering.
I think for me, a cultural barrier that I had was like during my sophomore year. I know, as Laverne said, I will definitely agree. Virginia Tech is predominantly a white institute. A lot of your professors are going to be native English speakers. So as an international student, I had trouble with the language. I did not think I would, because I went to an English school all my life. I spoke in English. My books were written in English. I was taught in English on K through 12. But when I took my first ever in major class, I was genuinely lost. Like, I looked at like how to move into a different major out of engineering, because I did not understand anything technical that my professor would teach. Whereas everybody else in the class seemed to be doing fine. Like, I struggled to just understand what he spoke about. And it took me a while to like realize that what it is like to have like to be like speaking English as a second language versus like being born and raised in an English speaking country as a native English speaker. So one of the things that I started doing, like starting like the next semester, was, at least in my major, we do have the ability to like specifically like look at professors and like pick classes. So I pick classes where most of my professors were either international or they had an influence of different culture, because I had professors who spoke with an accent, which I felt a little more safe about, because I had a professor who was very candid about it. She would be like, if you don't understand, tell me what you do not understand and I'll repeat it, because I know I speak with an accent. So that is what like kind of made like fostered a safe environment for me to learn in. And it got better over time, but then the first couple of semesters, that was the major cultural barrier I had. I sat in classes where I, God forbid, could not understand what they were talking about. And I had to go to like review sessions and like go and ask friends to repeat what was told in class for me to understand that same concept, because I was just busy translating in my head.
I had a very similar experience that of Harita said, but I used to record the class and then I used to go home and pause it and do it again, and then I had to go to office hours and stuff. But yeah, language barrier is something that I also faced.
Thank you guys. So this, I'm not seeing any questions in the Q&A. Just a reminder, if you all have any, just throw them in there and I'll see them and we can ask panelists. But I have another question in the meantime. Are there any specific skills or experiences that you all have that you didn't expect to be an asset in your degree program, but they ended up being an asset?
I have one that I never thought I would have coming into Virginia Tech, or like for a significant part of my undergrad. All my undergrad, the folks I did homework with, the folks I interacted, primarily were women. My friends group, people I hung out with every weekend, they were primarily women. And like, I think senior year of college, like starting my design team, my senior design project and things like that, I was the only woman in the team, or like I was one of two people. And there's come a point now where I sit in a class filled with only men, where I'm the only woman, and I'm very comfortable with it, because I think of it of like, if I'm in a class with all men, my professor, I do not need to make an attempt or even a deliberate effort for my professor to notice me, because he would notice me regardless. So I think that is something I've come to embrace now. Like being only a woman in a group can be can be to your advantage than a disadvantage in a lot of times, because at least in grad school, I have found a lot of men who are supportive of like women in engineering, and like they make an effort to like learn what it is to be like the only one in a table at the table. But at the same time, for me, it was more or less like, now I do not need to make an effort to be heard or recognized, because it automatically happens. So I do not, so for me it's more or less like there is no initial connection. I can just directly walk into my professor's office and I never need to introduce, because he or she already knows who I am. So that is something I never thought I would actually like being the only person, but now I genuinely do like that. That is something which is very unexpected for me.
All right, I'm getting a couple questions here. So first one is, how do you find balance in academic STEM responsibilities so that you don't get burned out from constantly being exposed to so many STEM aspects? Do you recommend a fun STEM activity or something outside of STEM completely?
I guess I'll kind of speak to this because my first year of my PhD was in a pandemic. And so basically all I was doing was sitting home. Like I moved to this place, I don't know many people here. And I'm sitting in my house like every day, just focusing on classes and schoolwork. And so I just got to the point where I felt like I was kind of going crazy, because I'm just like, gosh, there's nothing else to do. I don't know anything. So I kind of had to like take time and like look at and explore stuff within the city and kind of force myself to do it. Like I started doing like painting lessons and stuff like that. Like I bought a dog and started taking the dog out and doing things, outside of STEM, outside of my degree, so that I had like a reprieve, because there was nothing else, if that makes sense. Like there was no other like break from it. Yeah, so and I had friends here, so that did help, and we were able to meet up. But I mean, they're also busy people too, so you can't always be like, hey, let's meet when you're all graduate students trying to do work. So
What I did was, first, like even within my course structure, I made sure that I take like one not like in major class. So that helped me sometimes, like even with maintaining my GPA and stuff. One more thing was like every weekend, like there's one day I spend without my laptop, or like at least just not working on my laptop, I would say. And yeah, hanging out with friends is a good thing, but I also like doing like with orgs and stuff. So since I'm an international student, I'm part of like 3 international orgs at this point, and I really like that. So, and it is kind of like a break from my academics, and plus it's work, but it's fun. And also I work at Fit Lab, which is like more fun. It is an engineering lab, but I kind of do artistic stuff there. So, like maybe choosing your part-time job like that, what you enjoy, or take a break from your academics. No.
That's great. This next question is pretty similar to that one, but I think it might be more along the lines of like work-life balance, mental health. This person's asking, do you all have any advice on how to balance your intense studies with other aspects of your life?
I think I'll go with what Margie said. Like, I think my freshman and my second year, I was pretty bad at that. Like, I used to work like all of the weekends too because I always thought I had so much homework to do. However, like I think starting my junior year of college, I would do this thing that Friday nights and then Saturday mornings, I did not want to be with my laptop. So Friday night mostly we went out, like my friends and I went out, did something fun. We would do like laser tag, movie, if not just go out to eat dinner. And then Saturday mornings, mostly I would like listen to my favorite podcast or like watch my favorite YouTube channel, do laundry, and like the chores I do not especially like doing, but then would do it with something that I enjoy doing, like listening to podcasts or watching YouTube. So I'm still being productive, but I'm not like, but I'm enjoying it also. So I would not like necessarily do schoolwork. So that kind of helps me keep the balance. And I try to get a lot of my work done during the week. So during the weekends, I have the ability to do this. So that is something that I did like because then I had a kind of a balance and time for myself, like self-care and things like that.
I feel like the easiest way of doing it is just prioritizing. Like if I have a deadline that's due like, tomorrow, I'm going to do that. And then maybe the next day I'll just take a break because, I made met my deadline, met my goal. So I'm kind of like a little more easygoing in terms of like how I manage my time and my studies. Like I'll be like, okay, I have this thing due. Maybe I'll do it now or I'll do it later. It's going to get done. It's just, I don't have a specific study time. Like if I need to take time on the weekends to do something, I'm going to take the time on the weekends. If I don't feel like doing something, I'll be like, well, go out to eat or something or do something for my mental health, like go to the gym or, do an activity so that I'm not completely stressed out or overwhelmed by the sheer amount of like stuff that you have to do, especially like in graduate school. It's like everything is suddenly due all at once, and then things kind of like are due here and there, and then it's due all at once again. And so it can be very overwhelming, like during those like crunch periods.
All right, we have another question. What are you most excited about working on in your professional career? Are there any specific projects or opportunities?
I'll take that one since I'm about to head out in like a month. I'm looking for the 9 to 5, to be honest. Not to be joke around, but the graduate school, undergrad, it is not. It is, for lack of better words, a 24/7. I mean, not so much undergrad because luckily undergrad, when May finals hit, you kind of have that break, for summer and Christmas. But graduate school, man, you do not like. The advisors joke about not having it, but then they kind of also enforce it of like you don't really have spring break or of Christmas. I'm sorry, the holiday break. So for me, that's what I'm looking forward to, that 9 to 5, or just having a set time where like everybody's working, and then once Friday once the Friday at 5 o'clock hits, I'm like, I'm gone, because just nobody works on a weekend unless you need to. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do have friends that do already in industry that they say, hey, I've been sometimes working on the weekends, but that's just if, like, kind of what Laverne's saying, if you have a deadline or if there's just some deliverable that you need to do. But that is just, I'm just looking forward to like that time set where you just, this is where I work and I can do anything else after that.
I'm kind of excited for the freedom. Kind of what my understanding of like how the Department of Defense works as like a civilian researcher. You kind of have the freedom and flexibility to like design and choose the projects that you want to work on or facilitate, so long as it of course fits within like the DoD's mission. So grad school is great, but it's also kind of limiting. Like if you don't have your own funding, or if you're tied with a specific advisor, you can't really like necessarily do all that you're interested in doing. It has to be like what they want you to do and how they want you to do it. So that's kind of like the thing I'm looking forward to once I finish.
Yeah, that's great. I think what you said, Katrina, about the 9 to 5 is so true. Like when you're in school, you always feel like there's something you could be doing and you don't always feel good giving yourself a break, but breaks are so important.
And that's
for mental
changing
health.
too. Like now with the pandemic, people are like saying, oh, I'm more of a night owl. So then they work in the night. So I guess kind of rethinking about it, right? I think I'm more excited to like, I can put my own time and like nobody questions that time. And then I can have the rest of the time to do my stuff. So working at the time that I like am most productive, and then using the rest of the time to either do volunteer work or travel. I mean, and just the liberty essentially. So, because I know this whole 9 to 5 thing is a little bit on the like not taboo, but it's kind of being changed now with this whole hybrid working situation. And since people are saying we're going to go back to like before, but not really. So, yeah. But essentially that time of like, I want to work this time and like, that's it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So there's another question here, sort of along the same line as jobs. What's the best way to get experience in your field? Have you had internships, and what did you learn? And I might want to add to this also. How do you contact, or have you ever like contacted someone that's in a job that you want? How did you go about that? Like, how do you network and kind of figure out what you want to do? Sorry, that was a lot.
Oh, Laverne, did you want to go?
Yeah, I can go. So I didn't have an internship. Well, I haven't had one yet, but basically all of my experience outside of like the structured coursework has been through undergraduate research, and then now like it's a PhD. So I want to say that helped me a lot. I got a first author paper in undergrad. I was able to like connect with people, which is like why I'm at Virginia Tech. Actually, I met a lot of people at a conference I was at. So like kind of just exploring the avenues and opportunities that you have at your university, within your field, like maybe doing research or something like that, or maybe going to different clubs and social events. Within your degree, you can meet people, meet professors, maybe get their email, and then you can facilitate a relationship like, okay, hey, I'm more interested about this. Can you like maybe have a talk with me, or can I talk with one of your graduate students, or something along the lines of that, that just opens up your network. There's also like LinkedIn, if you want to like make those connections and maybe message somebody there or get their email, look at them up online, and then look at their like faculty website or something like that. That's another way of like getting more information about them. And then you can say, ask them specific questions, and get answers and, learn more.
So I agree with a lot of things like Laverne said. Like, okay, so I'm in the same boat. Like, I've never had an internship experience. All my experience comes from being through coursework and also through like undergraduate research. One thing I did realize is I wanted to go into like self-driving vehicles, self-driving cars, that field. And a lot of experience you need in that is today not taught in academia. Like as such, like you do not have coursework for them. But I quickly realized that you can be involved in design teams where you can get pretty much the same experience. Like they use like way different softwares in the industry for self-driving cars that are not being taught in academia. However, we use them in our design teams. So I talk about them in the interviews I give right now, and then I tell them I do not have formal training, but I have all these hands-on experience with them because of my design team. So it is one to identify, like once you realize like the kind of job you want, which happens organically, honestly, in a major, I would look at basically like job titles I want to be a part of, or like I want to take up, and see what their qualifications are, and see are there courses that I can take to improve on those, or are there clubs, because there are certain like software engineering clubs at Virginia Tech, if not design teams, that would give me these skill sets. Because I'll, from my interaction with a lot of folks in the industry, they want to see whether you have the skill set and the knowledge base, not necessarily just coursework on them. So that is something that I have done to like gain these experiences: design team, undergraduate research, as well as like coursework. More or less coursework, more of the other two. The next thing, with in terms of networking, I'm one of those people who networks on LinkedIn like blind. So, but I do it like, I think it's like the only strategy that I have is I look up companies I want to work at and then filter them out by folks who went to Virginia Tech, because there is a significantly higher chance that somebody you cold message on LinkedIn would reply to you. If you just put it up on like that little note you get to add when you cold message them, oh, I see that you went to Virginia Tech to go Hokies. Like they would reply back because they hold an alma mater to the place you currently go from. Because there are a lot of grad students who now message me on LinkedIn, and it's only because like they want to come to Virginia Tech, or they already go to Virginia Tech, or they want to like apply for seed, things like that. So I do have a more draw, because when they tell they want to go to Virginia Tech, or they go to Virginia Tech, for me to accept them because they want to be a part of this community I already belong at, or I belonged at. So that is what I have done for networking. And the other thing is networking through your professors. So a lot of faculty at Virginia Tech like have been a part of the industry, or they have connections in the industry. They get funded from the companies or like the defense. So asking your professors or advisors about like connections they have, tell them that I'm looking for this company. I saw that you work with them, they fund your lab. Do you know somebody who I can connect with for an internship offer and things like that? So that takes you a long way. So it is really hard to put yourself out there. It took me like 5 years. Only recently I started doing a lot of them, but I'd say that they're very effective in terms of connecting, because it's very personal. You have done your research. You're not cold mailing just some random person on LinkedIn.
There's a question that I love that someone's asking over here. What is your source of inspiration and what keeps you motivated? And just so you all know, panelists, we have just a couple more minutes left in the session. So I think it'd be great if you all, if each of you answered this question.
I want to say my biggest source is kind of like just seeing all the like people I surround myself with that are doing cool, like great things. People that have come before me that have done like amazing things and impacted like the world around them. It's kind of what inspires me. As for my motivation, right now I just don't want to fail. Like the like it's like, it's at least for me, I'm just like, okay, I'm already like really into this. I'm super far in, and I just want to do well. I want to do great. And so what keeps me going is just like that sense of like, okay, well, now it's all on you. You know, you don't have classes, you don't have any structure. You just have to do your research, and you have to do your research well. So my desire to want to do that and not like, you know, fail midway is what keeps me motivated.
I think I'd agree with Laverne. My source of inspiration is the people around me. A lot of folks I had friends, like a lot of folks around myself in undergrad were in a grad program. So I thought it was feasible because everyone around me was doing it. And now a lot of my friends are in PhD programs. One of them just defended like this past, like 3 months ago, this past fall, and then looking at them do things, and I'm like, it first thing is so cool, and next thing I'm like, I want to do that. I'm like, if it's possible by them, why cannot I do that? Like that kind of a thing. I am really competitive in nature, so that also can lure into me thinking that way, but it is definitely the folks around me keep me motivated. So that is something that I have found myself realizing. And my source of inspiration is, I think for me, I have to like tell it out loud and write it down. And then that inspires me because once I've written it down, it's on a piece of paper, I've committed to it. I'm seeing it all the way through. I'm not somebody who likes to give up halfway. So that is what inspires me. I'm like, and motivate. That's what something motivates me because I want to see what the end goal is, good or bad. I want to see what the end is. So that is what keeps me motivated. And like anything I do, like it can be the degree program I'm pursuing, it can be a club I committed to, or it can be like research I'm doing because it is really hard and taxing. Sometimes you're just banging your head against a brick wall, but you just want to see the end of it. You want to see what's on the other side. So that's my motivation primarily.
For me, I guess it's just like graduating on time and all my friends. Like I have like 10 international Indian friends in aerospace. So like, we keep each other motivated, like, and help each other with all the different subjects. And yeah, I guess that's what is like the main thing is like graduate on time. And for that, like, I have to follow my check sheet and I cannot like drop any subject and like, this all that is important for me right now, I guess.
Kind of going on, yeah, I agree with everybody what they said. And while everybody was answering, I kind of had like an epiphany of different points in my life. I had different inspirations. So when Margie was saying how her inspiration is kind of to graduate, I'm like, that's kind of my inspiration right now too, is just to finish and get my PhD. So depending on where you are in the stage of life, like I have a different inspiration. Or motivation, sorry. So right now my motivation is to, like you like, I can see the finish line of, showing my work to my friends and family and saying, hey, this is what I did for the past 5 years, and just, at the end, just crying out loud, saying thank you very much for everybody for, dealing with me with my headaches. But then I want to say that my motivation for everything, like for my undergrad and now for my grad school, has to be my family. Right now, my mom, my sister, and I, we're all going to graduate now. My mom in her PhD, myself as well, and then my mom in her bachelor's. And my mom, she's always wanted her PhD. So I kind of see us being like our motivator, like pushing us three to be like, hey, we can do this. Like and then my dad, he's like, we're gonna have a grand party because the girls of the family are all graduating. And so it's I guess it's just a combination of everything, where you are in life, what's going to be happening, and then just the people who are surrounding you are just going to help you push through everything. But I do want to say something else too, is that that one thing is that whatever you do right now may or may not guarantee happiness. So by that I mean, like, if you are interested in going to graduate school, right, or going to undergrad, you might start it out, but then if you're miserable, like, don't feel bad for like dropping out, because sometimes it's just either it's not right for you or it's not the right time. So don't feel bad about like getting out, because it may not be the right time for you. I know a lot of people, both who dropped out of undergrad, who dropped out of grad school, who are perfectly fine right now. They're super happy making their money, and they have a family and they're doing well, and they don't have the gray hairs that I have right now. So but just definitely know that there's the time for everything.
Thank you guys so much. That was great. I just want to add one more thing. Thank you to our awesome panelists. Thank you to Tech Girls for giving us the platform. And you all feel free to reach out to us. I have our emails here. You can screenshot this or write them down. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Becky, Margie, Haritha, Laverne, Katrina, soon to be Dr. Katrina. We're really, really grateful to have had you share all these great insights today. And there's a couple of notes I took because I think it's really important, some of the things that you said, and it's really what we try to also encourage amongst our Tech Girls alumni family, is just that peer mentoring, that support of others like you who are trying to be these, groundbreaking and break the bias kind of people out there in the world, it's really important to support one another. That was a key takeaway for me. And then also just the way that you have balanced your lives, the way that you do have painting and dancing and community organizations, all those types of things that you really commit yourself to bring that balance and to kind of round out yourself. And we're really excited about some of the research that you've done, and that's an area in which you've gained a lot of experience and putting yourselves out there to be on design teams. All of these things have really kind of, I'm sure, enriched the entire environment at your school, and will continue to enrich the entire STEM field as you move forward. So thank you everybody for joining us today and for taking the time, and good luck with the rest of your semester.
Thank you.